Welcome back to the Compressor Guru. Today, the Guru is going to talk to you about changing the oil in your air compressor and why these things are important. And now, here's the Compressor Guru. Yay!
I have an audience of two, and one doesn't have opposable thumbs and is walking around on the floor. Thank you, camera wife. This episode is prompted by a phone call I got a few days ago. A gentleman got a new machine, and he was concerned. He was checking it all out, and he said, "The oil's clean. Do I need to change it?" And he was doing some looking and seeing what all he could find out about it. And he pulled the side cover. I didn't tell him to, but he did. He said, "The oil's perfectly clear, but down in the bottom of the crankcase," this is a 325, by the way. I think it was 320. It was a Quincy QR series. And he says, "Down on the bottom, it's kind of sludgy." Well, I told him how to clean it out and, use brake clean and dump the oil, use brake clean, get that crankcase clean. But every year in November, December, we run a special, and it keeps us very busy. And we go out and we change oil for days on end. Change oil, change filters, change air filters, tighten belts, replace belts sometimes, and do safety checks and just make sure the machine's in good operating order. And this is part of the special. Well, and don't call me if you're in any place but Florida. I'll run down to Florida to do the special just because I want out of this weather. No, we only do this locally. But anyway, so you're going, why do I need to change my oil when it looks clear? It's not dirty. Well, guys, I got a list. It's not the top 10 list, but I got some reasons here. Number one, most compressors don't have oil filters. Now, your Quincy's, your QR series, some of your better ones and newer ones do have oil filters. And what the oil filters do is they catch the minute parts of bearings and rust, and if it was a car, it would be catching the carbon that ends up in the oil. By the way, do you know why the oil in a car turns black? You get an oil change and you think, and you fire it up, and within a few miles, the oil's black again. You go, man, that crankcase must be dirty. Well, in all probability, the crankcase isn't that dirty, but where that blackness comes in engine oil is from the carbon blowing down past the rings. When the explosion happens in an engine, the used parts of carbon they turn black, and they blow down past the rings, and that's what causes your oil to get black in a car. And you think, well, that's why we have to change oil. Well, that is part of the reason you have to change oil. We'll get to the other reasons later. But so only the Quincy's. I'm not sure if another brand has in the recips in the piston compressors. I don't know of another brand that does have the filters. I think Saylor Beall may have a line with an oil filter. But anyway, the point is you don't have an oil filter to remove the wear particles that are in the oil from the bearings, from the rust, from just everything that happens. And if you're changing your oil filter, you'd be changing your oil anyway. Reason number two, a lot of compressors are breathed externally. And what I mean is the crankcase needs to let air in and out of it as the pistons go up and down. Your Ingersolls, your 2475s, your 2545s, your 15Ts, they're all internally breathed. So they're a good unit to put like in a sawmill or a dirty application, say a powdered metal plant, or a weld shop where there's a lot of grinding and dust. And a lot of compressors are externally breathed, and when that happens, everything that's in the atmosphere, the dust, the sawdust, the powdered metal that may just look like a haze, ends up getting drawn into the crankcase. And what we have to do is you have to change the oil to get that debris out of the crankcase so it doesn't cause you premature wear. And, you know, we've changed, I don't know, 50, 60 oil changes in the last few weeks. And you can tell when they're in a dirty environment. Yeah, some of them, the oil comes out absolutely filthy. And we changed that oil a year ago. Most of my customers, this is something we do every year. So the environment with an externally breathed machine is also an important reason to change your oil regularly. Reason number 3, we've heard of oil breakdown. Now I'm going to use simple terms here because I am not a petroleum engineer, nor do I play one on YouTube. But we've all heard of oil breakdown, and it's caused by heat and wear and use. I want you to picture an earthworm, and here you see a picture of an earthworm. And that earthworm, that's an oil molecule. We're just going to pretend it's an oil molecule. That goes into your machine, and you turn the machine on, and that looks like a worm for hundreds of hours. And then you know what happens? It breaks in half. But it doesn't grow. So that earthworm is now 2 earthworms, half the length of the original. And a few hundred more hours go by, and those 2 pieces break again. And now you have 4 earthworms, a quarter of the length of the original, so on and so forth. And if you let that oil in there too long, instead of having earthworms going between the bearing surfaces lubricating, what you end up with is the molecules are down to the size of little ball bearings, and they don't lubricate the same way as that earthworm does, being a giant roller of a molecule. So that is why we worry about oil breakdown. Now the oil we recommend, and what we've put in almost every machine this fall, has been a PCI. It's an Amsoil product. It's a 20 weight synthetic oil. It's good for at least 2,000 hours. Why is 2,000 hours important? Because if you actually run your compressor 8 hours a day, every work day of the year, your machine will have 2,080 hours in 1 year. And that oil will stand up to that. If you're using a dinosaur oil, you know, a regular old-fashioned petroleum oil, we recommend you changing every 500 hours or every 3 months. In the long run, the synthetic oil is really the much better value. Even if it does cost a dollar more than the extra oil that the dinosaur oil would cost, the time and trouble of doing 4 oil changes a year instead of just 1, it's well worth it to go to a synthetic. I have a link in the description to Amsoil and PCI 20, and you can also go in that link and go to Amsoil and find a dealer. There's dealers all over the country, and you can get your Amsoil from any of them. Or if you're local to me, I'd be glad to sell it to you. So, it's almost Thanksgiving. You got time to get your oil together, get your filters together. Got to tell you a story. Got called to do an oil change on a screw about 60 miles from here, and he says, yeah, I got spare filters. And so what I did is I shipped him in spare filters for his machine, and I went right up because he was having issues other than an oil change. I go up and I said, where's your spare filters? We'll get this changed, get you, and troubleshoot your machine. I says, where's your spare filters? We'll get the oil changed, troubleshoot your machine, and get you going. And he went and got these 3 boxes, the air, the separator, and the oil filter. And He saved the used filters. He didn't have new filters. He saved the old filters. Maybe he needed the part number, but why save the filters? He had the boxes with the used filters in them. I was dumbfounded. So it actually cost him an extra trip for me driving back and forth, waiting for the filters to come in, and he paid 2 UPS charges because he didn't have spare filters. Guys, you have time between now and the first of the year. Get yourself some oil, get yourself the correct filter. Don't put used filters in. Get yourself the correct air filter, oil filter if your compressor has one. Start the year off right. If you don't have it changed by January 2nd, change your oil January 2nd, and next year, January 2nd, make it a habit, change your oil again. Your machine's going to last longer, you're going to do better, you're going to be better off in the long run. And I don't care that the oil doesn't look dirty. Because of oil breakdown and lack of filters on most machines, you want to be changing your oil. Guys, thank you. It's Monday. God bless you. Have a happy Thanksgiving. I got an assignment for you. Those of you that watch it before Thanksgiving or even after, I want you to tell me what you're thankful for. Whether it's your wife, your kids, your compressor, the parts I sent you, just put in the comments what you're thankful for. It'll make my day. You know, we're not grateful enough for the things we have in this country. Even if we have nothing, we have so much more than so many people have. And we are spoiled and we lack gratitude. This Thursday is the day to remind us we should be very thankful. God bless. Have a great day.